Welcome back, everyone, to what is now episode 12 of the CyberSec sessions. Today, we're here with Mark Bowling, Chief Risk and Information Security Officer at ExtraHop. So thanks very much for joining me here today, Mark.
Yeah, thank you very much, James. It's good to be here. I appreciate the invitation.
No problem at all. Glad to have you on. So to start off with, for the audience, could you give a bit of an overview for those that are not familiar with ExtraHop about what it does and how it works?
Sure. So we'll start with what it does. And when I say what it does, I'm going to say, how does it bring value to our ExtraHop customers? Okay. And then I'll talk a little bit how it works, and that's how the technology works. But the first thing that we are the premier network detection response tool. So we do everything that Darktrace and Vectra does, and we do it better than they do. You don't have to believe Mark Bowling, believe Forrester and Gartner, okay? We are the premier network detection and response tool. We provide telemetry of the network, and then based on the telemetry of the network from layer 2 through layer 7, we are able to see threats to the network. We notify the security operations center or the operators, and then they're able to respond. And we have integrations which enable an automated response, network detection and response. The second thing we do, and I'll explain a little bit how later, but we're also one of the premier next generation IDS tools. So instead of having to buy 2 different security tools, you can buy one, okay? So we are a next gen IDS. And if you collect all the telemetry on a network, by virtue of all, you're collecting all of the north-south telemetry, everything coming in and out of your network. And so we're able to see the threats to your network. So you don't have to buy firepower, and you don't have to buy, half a dozen other supplemental network IDS tools. Why? Because we do that as part of the ExtraHop Reveal X package. So you have tool consolidation and reduction of overall spend, which is a good thing. Third thing we do is we do network performance monitoring. Our roots are in network performance monitoring. So you think of some of the tools like NetWitness, which is a bit of network forensics, and like SolarWinds. We do everything that they do. Once again, we do it better. And we don't have the cool Russian backdoor either. So you have a more secure tool, you have a better tool, and once again, you have consolidation of tools into a single platform and a single tool, so you reduce your overall spend. Now, one of the things we don't advertise, but that we actually do really awesome, though, is application performance monitoring. So we do, it's APM, kind of like what Cisco has a tool called App Dynamics. And we do about 80% of what they do, except we don't do server performance monitoring. Now, back in the old days when you hosted your own servers, that was more of an issue. Now, most people are hosting their applications where? In the cloud, right? So if you're hosting your applications in the cloud, you can get all the server performance data you need off of GuardDuty and CloudWatch if you're an AWS customer, for instance. So we do APM, we do NPM, we do NDR better than everybody else, and we do next-gen IDS better than everybody else. How do we do it? Well, we consume all of the data on your network. We use packet brokers, or we take mirroring and spanning, port spanning, same thing as mirroring, from the core devices. We put it into a packet broker that dedupes it, and then we push all of that data into our system. And when that data is into our system, we analyze all of the protocols, all the packet level protocols, all the transport level protocols, up into the application session and presentation layers. And because we're able to see that, we're able to see the threats, we're able to see what's happening on your network from a performance basis, we're able to see what's coming into your network from external sources. And here's the cool thing. We have 3 superpowers that our competitors don't have. But number 1 is we're full cloud native. All right, we see the cloud. IP doesn't lie. You know how Shakira hips don't lie? Well, IP doesn't lie. And since IP doesn't lie, and IP is still what is used, Internet Protocol is still what is used in the cloud, then we're able to see that. So let's say you have a hybrid network, or you have a multi-cloud network, or you have a pure cloud network, or you have a premise network, because what we're seeing is people went about 70% to cloud, and now they're kind of creeping back. And so the lunge into cloud has sort of slowed down a little bit. Well, because a lot of the big banks and big enterprises are saying, no, maybe we want to control our own stuff because of what happened with things like Snowflake, etc. So the big thing is that we're able to see everything that has ends in the word Internet Protocol. And because we're able to see that, we're able to analyze it, we dedupe it, we analyze the protocols, we analyze the content. So number one superpower, we see everything in cloud. Number two superpower is that we can see your encryption. And that's something that our competitors just can't see. We can see the encrypted packets. Now, do we review the encrypted packets? No, but what we can see are when an adversary who's trying to threaten your livelihood by hacking into your network may use encryption that's not authorized in your network. We're able to see it, and we're able to see what they're doing, and that matters when they're doing things like exfiltration or placing hostile files into your network. So number one, full cloud native. We can see everything. As long as it has IP in it, we see it. And in fact, we can see serverless. We can see function as a service using tools such as sidecars to see Dockers and Kubernetes. So we can actually see more than just IP in the cloud. The second is, of course, and I mentioned it, is the ability to see encrypted packets. And the third is that we have unbelievable scalability. We can scale without performance loss. So some of our competitors are maybe a satisfactory solution or a mediocre solution for SMB. Well, we can scale down to small and medium business, but we can scale up to the very largest customers in the world, including financial. We have a customer who does financial transactions on a petabyte per month basis, and we're able to see those transactions. And so we have superpowers. Now, and I just talked about how we do it. We do it because we see everything, including cloud, including encrypted, and we can do it at scale without performance losses. Did that answer that first question of yours?
Definitely. And I think, yeah, a really unique combination of the superpowers, as you put it, that results in it. So fantastic. Thank you very much. Now on to your role at ExtraHop then. You've got quite an interesting title. So what is your role? And if you could give the audience a bit of an overview of that.
Well, so I deal with all the problems, okay? I'm not going to say I'm the principal at school. If you went to school in the United States, we had a principal on, they're the ones who dealt with the problem children. I'm the chief security officer, I'm the chief risk officer, and I'm the chief information security officer. So we'll start with the CISO roles because your viewers are probably more familiar with that type of role, but I handle all aspects of what a chief information security officer would handle. And I have two teams that do that. I have a governance risk compliance team, handles policy, third-party vendor management, customer due diligence, and regulatory compliance. And then I have a cybersecurity team that handles security operations. And I deal with both product security and enterprise security. So I've got both the security configuration of our environment, and then I have the monitoring of that environment through our security operations center. I also have risk other than just the governance risk and compliance that's associated with our InfoSec program. And so I have a massive risk management matrix. I deal with inherent risk, I deal with residual risk, and I deal with the strategies to mitigate risk. We either accept or remediate, or we mitigate, or we transfer. So we have a very robust risk management program here. And finally, I have physical security. And when I say physical security, I'm your standard chief security officer type roles: personnel security, facility security, and then physical security. So
fantastic.
if
Huge amount.
you've been watching the news lately with how they have these North Koreans, and the North Koreans have been creating these accounts, and so we've been dealing with that. That's one of the things. I've got meetings this week to address that. And so those are the types of risks that are operational risks rather than cybersecurity risks that I have the privilege of addressing on behalf of ExtraHop. And then I do a little bit of thought leadership on top of that. Excuse me. I do podcasts with people like yourself, James, and then I'm published occasionally. I think last 8 months I've had 2 articles, for instance, published in the Osaka Journal. And so it's a privilege to speak out for the industry, and it's a privilege to speak on behalf of ExtraHop. So those are some of those collateral duties that, I'm not smart enough to figure out how to duck on occasion. So
fantastic. No, it's a very unique way of combining all those different roles into one, but it absolutely makes sense, as you say, the operational risks, combining that all into with the rest of cyber, then you see the whole picture, right? Makes sense. Right. Fantastic. And your career up until this point has been pretty interesting. So could you give the audience a bit of an overview of your career that sort of led you to this point, and maybe that's why you're sort of so suited for some of this role now?
Thank you, James. I've had the privilege to serve, and serving is always a privilege. And one of the cool things, I started out as a naval officer in the United States Navy. I was an East Coast sailor, so I had the privilege of working with our NATO allies, including His Royal Majesty's. I'm still stuck 3 years ago, right? His Royal Majesty's Navy. Yeah, and it was just a wonderful privilege. I started out a nuclear engineering officer. I was going to go to submarines. We won the Cold War back in '91, so I ended up on a carrier refueling her in dry dock. But it was an honor to serve. It's always an honor to serve the people of the United States. And then I went into the FBI, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, kind of our version of MI5 and MI6 put together. And it was just a wonderful experience. That's where I really cut my teeth on technology. I came in as an engineer, so they kind of put me in a technical track. And then that technical track grew into cybersecurity investigations. And when I moved up in the FBI, I came home to Arkansas. I joked. I came home to Arkansas. It took me 4 wars and 23 years to make it home. I came home as an FBI executive, and then I went from the FBI to one of our inspector generals for one of our departments. We have 8 or 9 departments here in the United States. You have a Ministry of Defense. We have a Department of Defense. You have Ministry of Finance. We have a Department of the Treasury, for instance. And so I went to work as an inspector general, which was really cool from a transitional perspective. It was less the counterterrorism cyber investigation and a little bit more of my job is to make sure that this department is secure from a cybersecurity perspective. I left the government in August of 2015 after about 27 years. Once again, it was 27 great years, and it was a privilege to serve. And then in that period of time, I was a director of security and compliance at a power company that runs the grid in 15 states in the middle of the United States. I left them and I started my own consulting company. Worked for Amerisource Bergen, which is Fortune 9 at the time, I believe, in a compliance and quality role. And that was as part of my consulting business. Learned a lot doing that. Started my own consulting company with a couple other guys to do consulting back in the electrical power industry space, and we had several clients there. To make sure that I was able to have health insurance and things like that, I took a full-time job in the interim as a CISO at a hospital system in Northwest Arkansas. Arkansas is kind of in the middle of the country here, mid-south. And then I took a position through my consulting company as a fractional virtual CISO with a tech startup, fintech startup, United Capital. That just took off. It went great. And so I left the hospital and put all my energies and hired like 6 of my best friends. And we were United Capital's security department, all as 1099s, all through, this consulting company I put together. And then Goldman Sachs, the big bank up in New York City, bought us. And after they acquired us, I thought we were going to not have a job, and they kept every single one of us on. And I was still as a consultant, I was a VP in cyber tech risk at Goldman Sachs. And prior to that, or at that same time, they had turned United Capital Financial into private wealth management. So I was a business unit CISO for private wealth management also. And then about 3 years ago, Raja, who was one of the founders at ExtraHop, he gave me a call and he said, "Hey, Mark, I've been kind of watching you on LinkedIn." I said, "Yeah, I know. I was one of your customers." So we purchased ExtraHop at the hospital. I purchased ExtraHop at the hospital when they were selling it as an NPM tool, network performance management tool. I bought it for the network detection and response use case. It's kind of funny. So he called me up and said, "Hey, would you like a job?" And that's, it came over to ExtraHop about 3.5 years ago from Goldman Sachs. So it's been a great experience. I love everything about what I have the opportunity to do at ExtraHop, and I really enjoy the fact that we have a lot of customers that we still need to help protect. And these are people who are doing important work worldwide, as well as important work for the American people.
Thanks so much for running through that huge wealth of experience there, but you can really see, you can follow the threads and see how that ties into, what you did now and that trajectory in there and why it all makes sense. Thank you very much. So on to the question that I ask every guest, but I'm really curious to hear your perspective on this. What do you think the biggest threat facing cybersecurity industry is at the moment?
So at the moment, or over the last 2 years, because those are two different things, because the world is a very unsettled place right now. Okay. So if I were to say in general, what is the biggest threat that we see realized? Okay. And so I'm going to talk about what is happening that's causing. I think the epidemic of ransomware is what we are experiencing right now in the here and now as customers. I think we see state agencies in the United States being hit by ransomware actors. I saw a report that manufacturing is one of the number 1 victims of ransomware. I'm not going to say that I don't believe that report. But when I saw it, the numbers are there. You trust the numbers. It's like, yeah, looks like it. From my own experience and from the friends I have talked to from the healthcare space, the healthcare vertical here in the United States, healthcare is just getting ravaged by ransomware. And so I think from what we realize, when I say realize, not recognize intellectually, but what we see manifested on the bottom line for most companies, ransomware and the ransomware actors, to me, are one of the biggest threats. Now, today we have Iran making noise. We have Ukraine successfully doing an offensive into Russia, which is unsettling the Russian government. You have Russia and Iran both moving assets into Syria. So if you were to say what's keeping you awake at night right now, what's keeping me awake at night is the geopolitical considerations that could lead to an all-out cyber war. Okay. And so I know I've given you 2 answers, and I apologize for that. What we realize on a daily basis in the here and now for the corporate bottom line and for the nonprofits and for the government agencies is that ransomware is attacking us, and it shows no evidence of slowing down. But if there's something over the horizon that's going to come up and just grab us, I think it could be unrestricted cyber conflict as a consequence. of geopolitical concerns. Did I answer your question?
Absolutely, you did, and I think it's important to make that distinction, isn't it? Because there is a difference between what we're seeing versus what you've got to prepare for as part of your role. That's it, isn't it? Analyzing the risk, looking at the risk. So you've got to be aware of both sides. For anyone that will be listening to this episode that hasn't seen the last one, we actually had the former CISO of Royal Mail who a couple of years ago was victim of a ransomware attack on there. So he'll talk through how they dealt with that situation. But yeah, it's absolutely all the sort of people I speak to are have one eye on that as well as what's potentially moving forward. So.
Could I put a shameless plug in there?
Go for it.
Absolutely, I'm going to be absolutely shameless here. And you can read the article that was published in a SOCA journal I talk about the middle game. ExtraHop as an NDR tool and an IDS tool is uniquely positioned to provide value to corporations and enterprises and agencies that are trying to protect themselves from ransomware. But the same visibility that ExtraHop provides to prevent you from being a victim of a criminal enterprise that utilizes ransomware for extortion is the very same visibility that will help protect you if you are a critical infrastructure that becomes the target of an attack as part of a geopolitical activity. Okay, so both of those threats, the realized threat that we see today manifested on the bottom line, corporate bottom lines, as well as the imminent threat that I believe at this point is inevitable if you listen to the rhetoric. When tyrants say they're going to do something stupid, usually they do something stupid. They telegraph their passes. Okay. So we have an understanding that something could happen, but the same visibility that will help protect you now will also help protect you if things get worse.
Good to know. Thank you very much. And then, so the last question as well, again, that I asked everyone, as someone, as you say, who's built various teams in the past, what can you recommend to teams that are looking to attract and retain cyber talent?
So we live in a reasonably competitive cyber environment, cyber employment environment. And I'm quite proud to say that of the people I have on my team, and it's a growing team, the people I've had on my team, 70% of them followed me from other places.
Wow.
Yeah. So
it's huge. It's huge.
Yes, it is. And the other 30%, if you look at the other 30%, about 6% of it is someone that I went out and hired, who's my deputy CISO, and he's a former Air Force colonel and U.S. Air Force colonel. He really knows what he's doing. He's exemplary. Okay. First round draft pick is what we'd call it here in the United States. And the rest of them were people I inherited who have stayed. And so to me, the number one way to retain talent is to treat people well, have empathy, treat them like human beings. Even if they're highly motivated, don't want to take vacation, say, yeah, why don't you go take some vacation? Why don't you make sure you're taking care of your family and your loved ones and your significant other? And so, first of all, ensure that where you're working is a place where they want to stay, from a human perspective. Second thing is you want to make sure that you're equipping them to do their next job. One of the things I and this is what I tell my sons, and it's also what I have adult children, and I say, dress the part, look at the job your next job that you want. Like if you want your boss's job, you need to dress and act like your boss. And so I have an understanding that I need to help prepare people for their next job. I've had a guy get his master's degree in data science, working for me. And that's, if you know what data science is, it's machine learning now. That's machine learning by an academic name. It's what everybody else calls AI, but I'll call it machine learning. And so you have to prepare people for their next experience. And so I send my people to training Do I know that by getting them trained, they may go somewhere else? Well, if they have a better opportunity because I've trained them, then that's benefited them, you know. And so that's a good thing. So make sure that through your retention activities, you give them the best human experience and prepare them for the best professional experience. All right. So that's the retention factor. Now, attracting talent is, you know, I've been blessed, and because I've been blessed, I've got a pretty good Rolodex. And I, you know, when I advertised for a deputy CISO, I had 600 people reach out to me. And I've got some of those people in mind maybe for director positions as we expand my team. And one of the things I do is as I recruit talent or attract talent, I know some of the really good places to look for talent. For instance, I'm very active what we call the Air National Guard here in the state of Arkansas. I've got a lot of good friends in them. I'm retired, so I'm no longer in uniform, but I meet with them. I try to provide free training for them. I keep them up to date. So there's a lot of people that I know there that I think I would be able to attract if I wanted to. So being able to attract talent is a function of, do people want to come work for your company? Does your company have a good reputation? All right. And then, do people want the job? So you have to create a job that they would be interested in. And so is the position something they're interested in? Is the company someplace where they want to be? And then finally, there's the cultural human element, which is, do you have the kind of team that they want to be part of? When I interviewed my current deputy CISO, I had 3 teams of subordinates interview him. One a technical interview, one a kind of more a governance risk interview by my GRC team, and then a kind of a team leaders interview. He came back from those interviews and said, "Man, you have the most amazing team." And just by being interviewed by my subordinates, he wanted to join the team. I hadn't even talked to him yet. And so the 3, I say there are 3 things you want. Are you where you want to be physically? Are you doing what you want to do? And are you working with people you want to work with? And if you got 2 of those 3, you're actually in pretty good shape in today's culture. And so what I try to do is, when I retain people and attract people, I try to give them 3 for 3. And so that's how I attract people.
Brilliant. Some great advice there. Yeah, definitely does. And I think that's such an important piece, especially the training people up for the future, right? Because you may be in a position down the line where you've got the chance to rehire them, or, as you say, follow you from somewhere. They may have gone away and then you follow you back over. It's a piece a lot of people, especially in recruitment, it's a piece that people don't do so well, but it's definitely something they can do in cyber as well.
Yeah, let me give you an example of a couple of things I've done. Is we have a relationship with AWS, Amazon Web Services. I sent 60% of my team to reinforce because we use a lot of AWS. And we have a lot of customers who are in the cloud, and a lot of our infrastructure is in the cloud. So I worked out an arrangement with CSA, Cloud Security Alliance, to get all of those team members, CCSK, Cloud Security Knowledge or something. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it was one of their certifications. So understanding where the business is going, you can help get people trained in the skills they may need, not just for the here and now to do the jobs I have them assigned, but also for the future.
Fantastic. Well, look, all in all, that has been a really, really interesting podcast, Mark. Thanks so much for your time. I'm sure there's a lot of people will take away from this. So for one last sort of wrap up, if people want to get in touch with the ExtraHop team or have any questions about any of the products, what's the best way to go from here?
Yeah, so go to www.extrahop.com. That's the first place to start.
Yeah.
If you are a person who is a buyer or you select products and you have a preferred vendor, here in the United States, it'd be somebody like Presidio. There on the continent, it would be like Capgemini. Reach out to your favorite salesman, your account executive, and say, hey, I want to learn more about ExtraHop. Reach out to your ExtraHop contact, and I want to see ExtraHop. And don't just stop there. Don't just learn a little bit about it. We'll do a POV. We will do a proof of value. We will come and we'll put a deployment in your system, and my team will go through all the customer due diligence requirements so that you know that we are a high security system and that you can have confidence in our business practices, and we'll be happy to do a proof of value in your system. If you want to get a hold of me, just look me up on LinkedIn. It's Mark Daniel Bowling, and I'll be more than happy to connect. And if you want to learn more about how to be a cybersecurity leader, I'll have that conversation. If you want to learn more about ExtraHop, I'll have that conversation.
Fantastic. Well, we'll leave things there. Thanks so much for your time.
All right. Thank you very much. It's great. And those of you who are part of James' audience, it's great to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.